1, 2, 3, let's go!
Well, hello everybody. Welcome back to another sizzling episode of the Single Parents Podcast. This is the podcast for anybody whose life may have turned out a little less than traditional. Oh my gosh, so thankful, happy, relieved, any word you want to throw in there right now, to just be hanging out with you guys again. If you're a regular follower / listener to the podcast, you might have noticed we've haven't put out an episode for a couple of weeks. That's just because if you are new and joining the show, I am a real life single dad doing this thing in my living room around my kids' schedule, around the craziness that is life. I'm not an actor. This isn't a studio. I don't have a fancy producer and agents and even a podcast network as of yet helping me or doing anything. It's just me. I'm just doing it myself. So sometimes, unfortunately, till things change, podcast networks out there, producers out there, hit a boy up, the Single Parents Podcast at gmail.com. We can talk. But until I do get those emails, sometimes life is just going to hit and it's going to be a butt kicker. And that's just kind of been my last couple of weeks, to be super honest, right off the bat. Hello, welcome to the show. If you're new, I'm Anthony. Welcome to the chaos that is often the single parent life and all the discussions that we have about those realities on this show. But yeah, so actually, you know what? We actually recorded this episode 12, like a week ago, and we meant to have it out last week, but there's some audio issues, and basically, like, it was just on like a laptop or whatever, the show sounded fine, but if you put in your headphones, it was kind of all out of sync and it was kind of weird. And if you put in one headphone, you couldn't hear certain audio, and if you put in like the right headphone, you couldn't hear certain audio. And so I was just like, but because I was listening, I heard this content creator a while ago actually say this, that when you're putting stuff out there, oftentimes you get like one good first impression to make on a listener or a viewer if it's like a video, right? Like, people will check out your stuff once, and that's kind of where they make their opinion about your content, is from that one initial first impression. So and it can, no matter how good your stuff is, no matter what could be improved on in the future, you often get that one first impression, and you kind of have to nail it to keep people around. And so I believe in the show. I think it's legit, but I was just like, we could put out an episode even though there's this error here. Or I can just say, we're not just going to put stuff out just for the sake of putting stuff out. We're going to put quality out. So we're going to push the episode 12 back a week. And so here we are. Here I am on my couch doing episode 12 essentially twice. But anyways, that's just, whoo, baby. That is just the tip of the iceberg that has been my last couple of weeks. So let's get into it. If you have some wine, if you have a nice pretzel, a good throw blanket to cuddle up with, go ahead and get comfortable, because I'm just going to jump in to what's been up with me. Because I think the last time we chatted, episode 11, pretty sure it was the week before Halloween. I was talking to you about my daughter's costumes and what they were going to be, and trying to figure out what I was going to wear, and blah, 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 blah. So essentially, what happened after that was that I had my daughters that basically, like for 8 days following that podcast episode. So usually their mom and I, we alter co-parenting thing, alter custody or whatever, time with the kids, week on, week off. But our holidays kind of alternate depending on what holiday it is and what year it is. So for example, Halloween this year was my quote unquote holiday, because last year it was her quote unquote holiday. So you see, it just kind of switches back and forth depending on the year. So I had them for Halloween, so I just got them some extra time because of the holiday, because I think Halloween this year 2023 fell like on a Tuesday, so I just kept them a little extra. Usually we do exchanges on Sundays, but I kept them until that Tuesday night because she had some traveling stuff, vacation stuff she wanted to do, so we kind of worked it all out. So that Saturday before Halloween, still had my kids for a few more days after that Saturday, but we were kind of doing all the Halloween stuff. Like we were going to trunk or treats. We were hanging out with friends. To be honest, I think we kind of wore the girls out. I kind of wore the girls out on Halloween before Halloween even showed up, because that whole week leading up to Halloween, they probably put on their costumes like at least, I'm not, no exaggeration, probably at least like 10 times before Halloween actually arrived. So at the beginning, they were like super psyched, like, yeah, we get to dress up and go do this, and the book fair's in town at our school. And so they said if we wear a costume to the book fair, we get like a raffle ticket. So they would do all those things, but then come like that weekend and then leading up to Halloween, they're kind of like, do we have to put on our costume again? I can't find my accessories. I blah, 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 blah. So anyways, that was just kind of a funny observation. They kind of burnt out a little bit on Halloween from all the events and stuff like that, but they had fun. They got a lot of candy. But anyways, that Saturday night, we had just done like a trunk or treat event, got home. Girls went to sleep pretty early because the event was a lot and it was cold, and they kind of just had their own experience with it. But so me and my buddy, he was over, we were just chilling as the girls were already in bed. I was kind of thinking through the next day, Sunday, and I was like, oh shoot, Sunday morning, the girls are going to wake up, they're going to want some milk for their cereal. So I was like, I don't have any milk in the fridge. Hey man, can I just run to the store, like really like right down the road from my house, pick up some milk? I'll be right back and we can keep kicking it. The girls are asleep. You just mind hanging with them here it's gonna like maybe take me less than 10 minutes. He's like, sure, bet, I got you. So I go out and I get in my car. And if you've been around the show for a minute, you know already that my cars in general, maybe even better to say, thorn in my side. You know, that whole thing where there's something that just gets you and it just won't go away. There's always something. There's always a headache. There's always trouble. For some people, it's employment. For some people, it's just finances in general. For some people, it's health stuff. For me, it's cars and automobiles. Like, I have always been dealing with something. It seems like, at least, I might be a little over dramatic here, but it seems like there's just always something when it comes to cars that I'm dealing with. In particular, this current car that I had right now was this older used car that I paid for with cash after, long story short, got into a car accident. I was driving this smooth, sexy, sleek, beautiful minivan for a while. That was like the peak of my automotive experience right there, was for a few years when I had that minivan. Chef's kiss to that minivan. I miss that. R.I.P. minivan. I have to pour one out for you later, because I ended up getting into a car accident, rolling that minivan after hitting some ice, and totaled that van. So I got money from the insurance to get that all settled, pay for my current car with cash. But again, it was older, it was used, it was, meant just to kind of get us around town A to B till I could figure something else out. But that car just did not want to be on the road for honestly longer than 2-3 months without something going down, without the spark plugs, without it being the battery, without it being the timing belt, without it being this last time I dealt with over the summer, the transmission. Always something. But I thought, hey, I figured it all out. I thought it was going to be good and drivable for a while. So okay, go back to the original part of the story. I get in my car to go get the milk, drive down the road. I start heading down the road, just cruising. And, like those speed bumps that aren't like the speed bumps you go over. They're the speed bumps that kind of dip down a little bit and then you can keep going. So I just went over one of those, because one of those is between me and my house and the store I was going to. So I go over that little speed bump thing. I'm not speeding. Again, I'm literally just cruising a couple miles an hour down the road to this local convenience store. But I go over the little speed bump thing, and then I just felt my car start shaking, and honestly kind of felt like it was like a flat tire. It kind of felt like rumbling a little bit. It wasn't like violently shaking, but it felt like, again, when you have like a flat tire or something, it makes that rumble because the tire's flat and it's dragging across the ground. So I was like, oh, shoot, here we go. Always something. I got a flat tire. So I parked the car really quick. It's, probably around 10 o'clock at night, I'd say it at this point. Get out of my car, go to the front of the car to check where I think I have this flat tire, look at the tire. I'm like, what the heck? This tire looks fine. There's no, it looks good. It doesn't look flat at all. So I make my way around the car, inspect all 4 of the tires. They all look good. There's nothing wrong with them. I tap, check. They're fine. They're good. So I was like, what the heck? I don't know. Maybe it's something weird. I'm just going to keep driving. So I keep going a little bit further. Same rumbling. So I was like, what the heck? What is going on? I just checked the tires. They're fine. I don't know what's going on. I was like, you know what? It's not worth it. I'm tired. I don't want to deal with car shenanigans right now. I'm just going to do a U-turn, head back home. I'll figure out the milk situation later, or have my buddy run me up tomorrow morning. Whatever. I'm not dealing with this. I just did trunk or treat in the freezing cold all day. My girl's going to be up early in the morning because that's just what they do on the weekends. I'm going to go home and I'll figure it out later. Do a U-turn, start heading back home, and that rumbling just starts getting louder and louder. And at this point, I'm just crossing my fingers, wishing upon a star that I just make it home, because I don't know what's going on. And so I go a little further, rumble. I go a little further still, rumble. Go like 1 or 2 more feet, rumble, thud. And I was like, oh my God, what the hell just happened? Get out of my car, run to the front, only to basically find like half of the engine. The engine itself basically has just dropped out of position in the part where it's supposed to be in my car. Obviously, you can probably tell I'm not a big car person. Otherwise, they probably would have known better about what was going on in the situation. But basically, the engine fell out of my car and was like hanging like this much. If you're just listening to the audio version of the show, I like making like a 2-3 inches symbol or gesture rather with my hand. Like it was barely hanging between the engine rather was barely above the ground. It was like an inch or 2, maybe 3 inches above the ground. And I was, man, so many things went through my head. Just the fact that financially, like, here we go again, anger, frustration, the fact that I'm always dealing with something with cars, particularly this car, stress, thinking about the fact that, oh great, odds are I'm not going to have a car for a while because I don't know what's going on, but I have my daughters at least for 3 more days, and Sunday we were supposed to do this, and Monday is still a school day, and Tuesday is still a school day, and Tuesday is actually Halloween, and we had all these plans. A million things start going through my head, and I'm just like, blah, 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 blah. Why is there always something going on? And so I go back to my house. I try to get onto my insurance's website to see if I could get a tow truck to show up and at least bring it back to my house, because literally it's like right down the road. But I couldn't get a tow truck to show up, so I go in the living room, talk to my friend. I'm like, hey man, like, I think the girls, they're knocked out. The car's just right here. It has the warning lights flashing. Let's just go over there, check it out, see what we can do. We walk down together, and I double check and make sure that the engine's not all the way hitting the ground. There's still space. So I was like, I think we can put this baby in neutral and just push it back to my house, and I'll figure it out later. So that's basically what we did. Pushed the car all the way back to my house. Thankfully, we made it back. He went home. I was just like, I will deal with this in the morning, and hope and pray and wish that it was just a bad dream, and I'll wake up and I'll look out my front door and the car will still be in drivable condition. Maybe I'm just dreaming this whole thing because I am tired. The next morning, wake up, look out the window. Nope, that was not a dream. It was a reality. The engine's barely hanging on. My car is not drivable whatsoever. So I just kind of let myself wake up. I mean, what's jumping out of bed stressing going to do? So it's Sunday morning. The girls are waking up. They start jumping all over me saying, Dad, can we go do this? Dad, can we go do that? Are we still going to blah, 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 blah? And both me and the girls' mom, we kind of have like a rule, I guess you could say, is that we just don't ever lie to our kids, especially if it is something like appropriate to something that they could understand, and it's appropriate stuff. Like, we were just like, hey, like, we're going to be honest because, we're out here doing the best that we can. And so sometimes things go awry and we're just going to let you guys know that we're just trying to figure it out. So they're talking to me about all the stuff they want to do throughout the day. And I just kind of, get them closer. I kind of scoot them in a little bit. I'm still laying in my bed at this point, and I was like, look, ladies, like, unfortunately, I would love to go do all those things with you guys today, but there's something that happened last night. Basically, our car isn't drivable anymore, and so we don't have a car right now, and we can't really go anywhere. So I'm so sorry, but we'll figure it out. And I started going in my whole speech, but they're just like, what happened to the car? And they jump out of bed, they run outside because of course they have to see for themselves, and they're just like, oh my gosh, what, blah 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 blah. So that whole Sunday, actually, it was kind of nice, to be honest, because that whole Sunday, because we didn't have a car, friends are busy, people are just doing their own thing, which is 1,000% fine. But that whole Sunday is basically like, hey, we don't have a car, or we can't figure this out right now. So we're just gonna have some family time at home. We're gonna chill. We walked to the store and got food and stuff like that, because yet again, the store was right by my house. I wasn't going that far last night. But we walked, we got food. What else did we do that day? I think we did math equations together because they're super into like addition and subtraction right now. So they asked me to make them math problems, and we watched some movies. And so that day actually was pretty nice. It was still like, okay, so I actually told some people who I was messaging throughout that day about the car situation was that, yeah, this is the reality. This is what happened last night. But I was just like, I still have my girls for a couple more days before they're supposed to go back with their mom. And not only that, but this is Halloween time. It's Halloween season. This is fun for kids. This is something that they've been looking forward to. So I was like, I have some things I got to figure out. 1,000% yes and amen to that. But I mentally am just going to choose to use these next couple of days just to focus on them, focus on what we can do as a family, focus on still giving them a good Halloween, focus on not letting them see me walking around pacing throughout the house, stressed and confused and angry and all these things. I was like, I basically, I will figure all this out. I will stress about it. I will overanalyze it. I will ponder all the options after the girls go back to their mom's house Tuesday night / Wednesday. But for right now, I'm just going to focus on them. So for the next couple of days, and thankfully I have some awesome friends who came alongside of me and helped me out and to help get the girls to school and do all that stuff. But for the next couple of days, just focused on them. We ended up having a good Halloween. We went over and one of my buddies bought a new house in like the legit trick-or-treat neighborhood. So for a while, the girls got to hand out candy as kids came out throughout the neighborhood. And then after a little while, I took them, did trick-or-treating. And then after a little bit more, their mom came, picked them up, and they had a good time. And so I was, in retrospect, I'm very thankful that I chose that approach to it. I didn't just let myself sit and be annoyed and stressed and on my phone trying to do this and do that. I'm glad I was able to slow down and just say, you know what? I just choose to focus on my girls right now because life is chaotic, and if I always react to whatever chaos is happening, then they're never going to get my full attention. So sometimes you just got to say, chaos, you could wait. I'm going to choose to be present and make some memories with my family right now. So that was basically Halloween. Now, the week after Halloween, I was officially, they went back to their moms that Tuesday night. But after that point, I was basically on a timer because I was like, okay, the girls, they're with their mom. They went back with their mom Tuesday night, but I still was going to get them Sunday night. So instead of having, 7 days in between, I only had 4.5 days because of just the holidays and the switching and the change of the schedule, whatever. But I was still getting them Sunday night. So I was like, okay, I'm on a timer now. I basically have from Wednesday of that week to Sunday evening before I get them back to figure out my car situation, because then I'm going to have them for a whole another 7 days after that, and we can't just just be asking my friend, my bless his heart, he's such a good guy, but I was like, I can't be asking my friend to keep showing up at 7:30 in a cold fall morning to help me take kids to school every single day when he's like a younger single guy. Like, yeah, so Wolf, like, no. He would if I would have asked, but I was like, I got to figure my stuff out. So throughout the rest of the week, I was like, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to break up the stress into pieces. Wednesday night, I'm going to kind of look at some local options. Thursday, I'm going to kind of see what possible loan situations could look like. Friday, I'm going to start like researching cars and seeing like what I can and can't do. So spent the whole week doing that to come to Saturday. Saturday, found a lot here in town with a really good car that I was like, ooh, this is good. Only has like 30,000 miles on it. It's a newer car. It's sleek. It's pretty sexy. It's reliable. Actually, that was the big word when I was doing all this research and talking to people about car options. I was like, I honestly, cool. Red car, silver car, heated seats, tires. I don't really care. All I want is something reliable. Please just help a brother out with something that can get me from A to B without, whenever I go out to start it, I'm rubbing my lucky rabbit's foot and wishing upon a star and blowing out my birthday candles and hoping and praying and doing all these things, holding a 4-leaf clover up in the air, just hoping and wishing and making sure my luck is all good so it'll even start. And it will get us to where we need to go, because that's been my reality for the last probably like year or so with that old car that broke down. So I had a lot of conversations about that, but found a car that was legit. Spent like all day at this car dealership doing all the things you got to do when you purchase a car and make sure you don't get taken advantage of and going back and forth and blah, 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 blah. But I am very happy and relieved and joyful, and all those words could be pretty redundant. I understand that, but I'm just, I'm gonna exhale literally on podcast right now, because that's how I felt. Because Saturday I was able to drive away with this nice legit car. I'm so thankful I was able to get it, to where Sunday I showed up to pick up the girls from their mom's house, but I didn't tell them I was going to get this car. I don't even know what they expected me to do, because as far as they knew, that whole week they were with their mom. Dad didn't have a car. I don't know, whatever. But I show up to get them. They come running out, and my older daughter, my 8-year-old, she's kind of looking around, because it kind of same color as my friend's car who was helping us out for a little bit. So she looks, but then she's like, no, that's not his car. That's not Michael's car. So then she comes up and she looks in. She definitely then realizes, no, this is a different car. And so she opens the door and she's like, Dad, oh my gosh, I'm so happy you finally rented a car for a little bit. And she gives me a big hug and whatever. And I'm like, no, babe, no. I didn't rent a car. And so she starts looking at me confused, like, what? Then what is this? And I was like, well, we didn't rent this car. We were able to get this car to be ours for a while. And so she starts screaming, yes. And she starts jumping up and down. I'm like, yeah. Wait, where's your sister? And she's like, I'll run up and tell her, but she just woke up from a nap because actually she's sick. And I was like, oh dear, here we go. So get the kids in the car. They're happy about their new car. But yes, my younger daughter, my 6, soon to be 7-year-old, came back from her mom's house super sick. And so went through that whole thing with the car, exhaled from that to getting the girls, and now having to deal with the sick kid and working and do all that at the same time, to where Monday morning, my daughter, she was really sick. I think actually, to back up a little bit, her mom took her to urgent care that Sunday. I knew she was sick, but I was like, oh yeah, that's right, she's sick. And so anyways, that Monday, I'm trying to work on my computer, and my older daughter, she just said she was sick too. So they ended up both staying home from school, even though my older one probably could have went to school, but whatever. But my younger daughter definitely was sick, and she said her stomach was hurting, and I tried to cuddle with her to go to sleep, and I work from home, so I put her on my lap while I was typing away and making my calls and doing all this stuff. But she was just she's not feeling very good at all, poor girl. And so finally, I got to a point where I just called their mom, and I was like, I don't know what to do. I tried to work. I gotta be at my computer, but she says her stomach hurts, and she says her head hurts, and she doesn't feel good. And I gave her the medicine, and I followed the doctor's instructions with the antibiotics, and I tried cuddling her to sleep. I spent my whole lunch break doing that, but it didn't work. Please. And so she's like, all right, I'll wrap. She works for herself, so she wrapped up what she was doing. She's like, all right, I'll be there in a sec. I'll come get her. And so she came, got our youngest. She took her back to her house and was able to get her to fall asleep after giving her like a lavender bath or something like that. And so I was able to finish up work and just spend some time with my older daughter. And then the next day she brought her over, and then my older daughter still wasn't feeling well. And then I started that probably like Tuesday, Wednesday night, started getting that feeling within myself of like, oh shoot, I feel it. I feel it coming. That pre-sickness feeling that you get when you're not fully sick, but you can feel it coming. And I was like, nope, can't do it. I don't have time. I don't have the mental capacity. I just can't be sick right now. Of all the stuff I just dealt with the last week and a half, my daughter's starting to finally feel better. I can't be getting sick right now. So I started downing vitamin C. I started like mentally like fighting against my own self, saying, you're not getting sick. You're not getting sick. And you're not getting sick. And admittedly, probably not the healthiest attitude and approach to life to have. I understand that. I get that. I probably should set my life up in a way to where if my body needs to rest and be sick, it can do that. And I'm not, losing my mind. But the reality is I'm just not there right now. This podcast isn't me telling you all how to live by sharing my life. It's me sharing my life, and hopefully you can relate to it a little bit, because this is just how it goes sometimes, right? So I wasn't sick. I could have been sick, but I figured it out, okay? I figured it out. My body and I figured it out. And so got through the weekend. We did our thing. We hung out, me and the girls, and to where literally I'm recording this podcast now on a Sunday, and the girls just went back to their moms for the week about like an hour or so ago. Woo! So that's been my week and a half. That's been my last couple of weeks, rather. I told you, it's been a lot, and having to navigate a broken down car, Halloween, sick kids, work, and then other money stuff, buying a car, all these things. It was a lot, and it still is a lot. There's still things I need to figure out that I'm stressing a little bit about, but I'll figure them out just as I have done everything else. But I guess I share all that to say, when it comes to the single parent life, and when it comes to navigating things and having just to navigate things, oftentimes on your own, again, I have a good support system. I mentioned my friend, I mentioned the girls' mom, I mentioned other people who throughout that whole story I just shared were definitely, I'm super thankful for. They definitely helped. That it was good that I could lean on them for support, but it's still tough, right? Having to navigate all of that, and having just to say, hey, I got stuff to figure out, but I also got kids to take care of, and I also got a holiday, especially with the holidays coming up. I'll talk more about that in a second. It can be a lot being a single parent and having to navigate all of that stuff, but it's what we have to do. It's what we have to do, and we don't always do it successfully, and we always don't do it sometimes in a way where we don't feel like we're going to burn out and spiral out of control. I must have felt those feelings 100 times over the last couple of weeks, but as we often say on the show, as long as we're doing the best that we can, and as long as we're striving to keep going forward for the sake of the betterment of our kids and ourselves, then that's often all that we can do sometimes. So I apologize for taking up the last almost 30 minutes, just kind of breaking down my life. But I hopefully sharing with you my story the last couple of weeks offers you some, I guess, encouragement or really just a sense of relief, knowing that if you're going through the same type of chaos and craziness out there, that you're not alone. There's other people, including your own podcast hosts, who can relate to just having to figure stuff out, to having to navigate some crazy, crazy waters while also raising children at the same time, especially during this time of year. I kind of mentioned this a second ago, but I definitely want to really just slow down and make sure that you, the listener, you specifically the listener, whoever's hearing this, has the ability to really check on themselves right now during this time of the year when this podcast episode's coming out. Because if you're listening to the show right when this episode is actually coming out, then we're in the middle of November. Again, Halloween just kind of wrapped up, but we also have Thanksgiving coming up in a couple of weeks, and then in December, depending on what you celebrate, there might be Christmas or Hanukkah or Kwanzaa or whatever happening in December. So, and for me, like a couple of days after Thanksgiving is my younger daughter's birthday. So we got a holiday and a birthday coming up, with Christmas still looming around the corner. And so as cool and fun as a lot of these holidays are, for sure, like they're fun, joyous, amazing occasions for a lot of families to celebrate and to spend time with each other and make memories and all that. The reality is that for a lot of people, especially in our context as single parents, this time of year can be extra stressful and hard. Not even just practically, but emotionally for a lot of people. I don't want to get into too many specifics because these are real things that I know real people are going through, and I don't always know who listens to the show, so it's not really always my business to be sharing in full detail. But I know for a fact that there's a couple of single parents out there who are just kind of really going through some tough times right now because this time of year has just really hit hard, and financially, and a lot of financial ways, to where I know one single mom is just literally doing everything she can. And again, I'm not going to share details, but literally doing everything that she can to financially provide for her kids, like doing some things she once said, hey, I'm never gonna do XYZ in order to make ends meet. Now she's like, I have no choice right now. I have to take this job. It's just, and it's rough because you would like to have some sense of a choice in some of these situations, but the reality is sometimes you just have to do what you have to do, even often just to survive, especially throughout this time of the year. And then another friend, she's kind of going through it because she's single mom, has her kids, but she was kind of doing the co-parenting thing. So she had help from the kids' dad, but maybe you can kind of put some pieces together through some very unfortunate circumstances. The kids' dad is just no longer around, no longer in the picture, no longer with the family. I'll just say that. And so she went from being a single mom who had to figure out co-parenting and still all the dynamics of that, and still the loneliness and the weirdness of that reality, to now being a full-time single mom, just doing it herself. 24/7, 365. And this time of year for her and for her kids is going to be one that's never probably going to be the same again. And so emotionally, financially, practically, this can be just a tough time of year for a lot of people. And I'm speaking as somebody who yet again has things to figure out as we're heading into these last 2 months of 2023. And so I just really hope that you're able to yourself slow down, take some time to check on yourself, check on your mental health, check on your emotions, check on your stress level, check on all the things, because it's going to be very, very easy just to live in reaction mode this time of year, right? Like, well, I'll just figure it out, and yes, I have to do this and come up with the money for that, and I'll just kind of disassociate a little bit and just figure it out for the sake of my kids. Got to stay strong for my kids. I'll figure it out for my kids. But, and I'm sure you would even agree, oftentimes the best things that we can still do for our kids, I know we're trying to do the best that we can for our kids, But one of the best things that we can do is just make sure that we are healthy, that we are okay. Because it can hit hard. The reality of what we go through can hit hard, and sometimes it can sneak up on you, and sometimes it can really bite you. And then the next thing you know, you're just like, I can't do this anymore. I've hit the wall. Enough is enough. I'm at rock bottom. I love my kids, but I just can't do it anymore. Sometimes that just gets you sometimes, and it's gotten even the strongest people that I know, the strongest moms, the strongest dads that I know, that reality has gotten them, and it's broken them, or even worse. And so I hope that you're just able to check on yourself. And if you're not doing good, if you're feeling overwhelmed, please go get help. Therapy if you can get it, but reach out to a friend, a family member, somebody, and just let them know what's going on, and get that support and get that care. Don't try as much as you can not to go through this, whatever it may be, alone. I know that you want to be Superman dad and Wonder Woman mom and be strong for your kids, and do the whole like, I got this, I'm a healthy independent parent type thing, but please just check on yourself. That's all that I would say. Is check on yourself. Make sure that you're taking your breaths, taking some space to kind of do a little evaluation, and then head into this time of year just healthy and not fully reacting to things, but acting on whatever it is that comes up in a way that's prepared, that has boundaries and healthy perspective set. Because when we're always just in reaction mode and just reacting to things all the time, then things that we would normally not compromise on sometimes kind of creep up, and we start compromising on things we normally wouldn't, but we didn't really have time to process and prepare and have conversations with our kids about certain things. And so we kind of just start letting things slip. And even when it comes to our kids and boundaries and things that we want to set for our kids, this time of year, for example, you're being around a lot of family members, being around a lot of social gatherings. And so there's going to be things that we're just going to have to watch out for our kids when it comes to their own boundaries and things that they do and don't feel comfortable with. A big example of that is like even things like physical touch. Like a lot of family members want to engage in that and think they have the right to engage in that just because they're family. But where are you and your kids when it comes to things like that? Because a lot of kids don't feel comfortable even hugging or touching or being touched by people, especially if they don't even really know them. Like, yeah, that's my Uncle Bobby, but I don't know Uncle Bobby. I see him twice a year. I don't really want him touching me. I just don't get the right vibes for Uncle Bobby. And so to have those conversations with your kids and to say, you know what, hey, Uncle Bobby, hey, we appreciate you wanting to give little Susie some love, but we don't really do hugs right now. We're not doing hugs right now. So could we do like a high five or something? Whatever, just to have all of that prepared and talked about and the boundaries set could be a good thing. Because I think when we head into situations, family gatherings, even the cool fun stuff, but when we head into those things just constantly reacting, that's when trouble can pop up. That's when we get ourselves in situations that just add more fuel to the chaotic fire. So if we're able to first slow down, check on ourselves, see how we're doing, and then reevaluate or evaluate our boundaries and evaluate our standards and evaluate what we do and don't want for our kids during the season, and have these conversations with them, then we'll be able to show up over the next couple of months, hopefully with a healthy presence, with some joy, with some smiles, with some authenticity, to where all the other practical, stressful stuff that's just going to come over the next couple of months can still be navigated, but we can navigate it through our healthy sense of selves. So this time of year, in a million different ways, financially, emotionally, physically, spiritually, whatever, can be super triggering already. So we're going to make sure we're aware of what those triggers are. We're going to make sure that we ourselves are emotionally aware of where we're at. We're going to make sure our kids are good and know where their own boundaries are at. And so when we enter into the things we got to do, we can just try to have some fun and try to have some joy and make some healthy, positive memories with our kids throughout this season. But what do you all think? What do you think about all of that? Where are you right now? How is your mental health? How are you doing as a mom? How are you doing as a dad? Is there anything that you need to seek help on? Do all those things. And again, I'm not a licensed therapist or anything by any means, but you can always reach out. You can remember that this community here on the Single Parents Podcast, we love you, we support you, we understand you, we have your back. So do all the things to stay in touch with us. Use the social media handles. The email is available if you want to share your story or share your perspective. It's just the Single Parents Podcast at gmail.com. We're on Discord. If you know much about Discord, this cool online platform where we can, as a community, share our stories and funny memes and resources and things like that. So if you'd like the link to our Discord, you could reach out to that email, and I'll personally send you the link to the Discord. And then lastly, I would say maybe your response to everything I've been saying is, you know what, like, yeah, I know a lot of people have a rough time this time of year. I know, Anthony, you've been going through a lot, but I feel like I'm good. I feel like I'm all right. So I don't really think I need that. That's awesome. That's great. Golf clap to that. That's really sweet. But the reality is that even though you might be good, your neighbor, somebody in your circle, family member, there might be people out who who could benefit from being a part of a support group like this, a community like this. And so if you keep that in mind, there's a few things I'd like you to do to help spread the show around. Number one, that's just practically sharing the podcast with a friend, family member, your used car lot salesman, with your Uncle Bobby, who might want to give your daughter a hug during Thanksgiving, and you might have to be like, no, Uncle Bobby, we're not doing hugs. She doesn't feel comfortable with that. But hey, how about instead of a hug, I turn you on to this awesome podcast called the Single Parents Podcast, and you can like and subscribe to that podcast instead. How about we do that, Uncle Bobby? Yeah, let's do that this holiday season, and just spread the podcast along through that way. Also, if you like the podcast, you can rate it 5 stars, 10 out of 10, whatever it is. That way those algorithms out there, the artificial intelligence, tells other people who might be in our similar demographic that this show is legit, and it'll pass it along to more people. And then last but not least, just make sure you yourself are subscribed. You turned on automatic downloads wherever you're listening to the podcast, so you never miss a future episode that might benefit somebody particular, and you can just share it directly that way. But you won't miss it yourself because you'll have been subscribed. All right, everybody. Well, that's going to get ready to do it for this episode of the Single Parents Podcast. I think this was just one. We just needed to catch up a little bit, kind of assess where everybody's at. I shared my chaos. I hope you're working through your own chaos if that's what your situation's like right now. But we're all just going to collectively do a little exhale. We got this. We're good. We're hot single parents. We're hot single parents. It's hot to be a single parent. Don't forget that out there. Yes, it can be crazy. Yes, it can be hard. Yes, it can be draining being a single parent. But also, don't forget, being a single parent, super hot. Don't forget that part. All right. You keep that in mind. But most importantly, you out there, you just keep doing the best you can. We'll see you back here with a fresh episode next week. Until then, bye.